This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Fantopia Friday, everybody. I am Erica Lukes, and I'm always happy to be here. It makes me just smile like you wouldn't even believe to see all of my friends in Facebook. Thank you so much. Getting messages from all over the world every day from people who are finding out about the show, sharing that with their friends. And I am grateful to all of you. It is a pleasure to be here every week. I am happy to be a part of such a fantastic lineup on my station, KCOR. Tonight we are adding somebody new to the powerful lineup of women. Joanna Ross is joining us right after my show on Universal Child. And she will teach you, empower you to find the light within and how to discern symbolic messages from your spirit guides and higher self. This will be fun. And then Tina Marie is on restricted airspace right after that. And let me just tell you, Mama's a little spicy tonight, so it's going to be a good show. I'm definitely going to make a margarita and stick around for that one. Tonight on my show, though, I am interviewing somebody that I've been wanting to interview for a long time, somebody that I have tremendous respect for. He knows his stuff. Alejandro Rojas will be here. And then for the last segment of my show, I'm going to be interviewing cryptozoologist Bruce Champagne. He is fantastic. He's a member of our group here in Utah, and I'm looking forward to hearing about all of his research. But this week, I just have to tell you, it's been an exciting week for me. As always, I know that's a shocker. I did the Paracast, and I was on with Greg Bishop and Gene Steinberg. And let me tell you, they kept me on my toes. It was a great show, and Greg Bishop sent me a book, which I was very excited to get, called It Defies Language. I'm looking forward to reading that. I always love getting the opportunity to speak to different people with different viewpoints, and it really is just a refreshing thing for me, and I think it's important to have dialogue with everybody with regards to this. I also spent time talking to MUFON's head photo analyst, Mark D'Antonio. We were talking about ways to improve my photographic skills when it comes to UFOs and collecting data here in Utah. I also talked to Fact or Faked Ben Hansen, who is a Utah native, actually, and his parents live up here in the Bountiful area, and they see some unusual things all the time. So it was really, really a cool week for me. But now, enough about my week. I'm thrilled to have Alejandro here. In fact, I'm not just thrilled. I'm really, really excited to have Alejandro Rojas here. He is the Director of Operations for Open Mind Productions, the host of Open Mind's UFO Radio, an editor, contributing writer for Open Minds TV. He is the best MC on the planet, and you can see him every year at the International UFO Congress. He blogs for the Huffington Post. He's been on lots of different TV shows. You can hear him on Coast to Coast. You can see him on the Travel Channel, Sci-Fi, National Geographic. He has interviewed some really, really cool people, which I want to talk to him about. Tom DeLonge, all sorts of cool people. So Alejandro, I am so happy to finally interview you.
Well, thank you for all those very kind words.
Well,
I'm excited to be here.
I know, it's so cool. And I know you've got a hot date later tonight, but that's okay. I'm really glad that you took the time to be here. I've been listening to some of your great interviews, which you can find on YouTube, and especially with Martin Willis. I love Martin. He is such a cool guy. And to listen to the things that you talk about, specifically the way you got into the field. And I have to say, I was a little shocked that Stephen Greer had something to do with that. Will you tell us all about that?
Yeah. So it is kind of funny, and I got to give credit where credit's due, but it was, I would say, I was into the topic. I've always been into science. In fact, science and math were, the things I was really into in school, and I wanted to go on to become a rocket scientist, actually. But then I began getting into journalism, and because I was always a news hound. But when I was focused on journalism, I would ask some people occasionally, because I was into the sciences, and even though I paid attention to UFO stuff, I just didn't know what to make of it. And I also was more open to paranormal and stuff like that because of my Native American background and my Mexican heritage. Those cultures are more open to these sorts of things. And the stories I had heard from people. But when Stephen Greer put together the Washington Press Club, the first Washington Press Club UFO event, back in, 2001?
Yeah.
At that time, I had asked, different journalists, why don't you cover this topic more? It seems really interesting. And they said, well, if there's something to cover, we would cover it. And I kind of took that as that makes sense because at least at the time, I knew about what was on television, and all the shows go over the same stuff, Kenneth Arnold, Roswell. And so it's like, okay, well, they cover Kenneth Arnold and Roswell, or what else is there? But Stephen Greer, of course, brought all of these very credible people. And at the time, I didn't know about any of them, actually. And all of the media was there to cover it. And I thought, wow, this is going to be a big deal. We're going to see so many stories. And we didn't. CNN did a little story on it. And that was about it. It didn't really get much news coverage. And boom, at the time, that was my, Close Encounters moment where all of a sudden I was obsessed and I had to find out who these people were, everything about them, which led me to read more and more books. And I was a hermit for a period of time, just digesting everything that I could, reading and reading and reading. During this time, of course, it doesn't take long once you research to come across MUFON. But I then found that MUFON was actually headquartered right near where I lived. So immediately I went down there, started going to their meetings, and I have kind of a funny story. When I walked in, I was like, I would like to volunteer. And the lady there said, would you like to be a treasurer? We need a treasurer. And I said, sure. And she handed me this bag of money. And I was like, well, how do you know I'm safe? What if I'm with the government or something? And she all of a sudden got scared. And she looked at me and looked at the money like, well, give it back. And then I said, oh, I'm just kidding. And so that's how I started. And so luckily National Headquarters was there. And so I got involved with National, and, that started everything. I started doing PR, and that's when I started getting into journalism at school and everything. And so it just kind of took off from there. And one of the things that John Schuessler was the director of MUFON at the time. And one of the things that he did was kind of a news clipping thing, where once email came along and everybody started using it, he would send out almost on a daily basis links to news stories, or mostly photocopies and stuff, because the internet wasn't as big at the time, or at least and not like everything where we get all our news and everything like that now. So that's where I started doing that. And then once, the online tools started to morph and change, I started using like Yahoo groups to do this news clipping type of thing. And then I created my own website, the UFO Think Tank. Then UFO TV asked me to participate in their podcast, and I thought this is fun. I want to do a podcast, so I started doing that. And I've continued to do these daily UFO updates every day ever since, and follow all this stuff and write about it. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Wow. I mean, what a cool story. It's so fun. And it's like me. I mean, it's just one thing led to another and another. And I every day I'm just in awe at the people I talk to. It is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Well, you did the same thing, and I think that's what's important for people is to get involved. I mean, there are a lot of people who comment on Facebook or are quick to criticize, everything that we do. Although at the same time, there's a lot of people who praise everything or lots of stuff that we do. But still, for especially those who are critical, get out there and start volunteering. There's so much that needs to be done and can be done. That was what's great about you. I mean, that's what you started doing, showing up and helping. And I think that you can attest to once you start doing that, you're overwhelmed because you find like, wow, I could use 5 or 6 more people helping me do this, So there's so much to do out there. Just get out there and do it.
And that's exactly it. I mean, sometimes I just get so discouraged when I look at some of these Facebook groups and I think, I love a lot of the people that I've met, but some of them are just so negative. And it's like, you spend so much time on Facebook. Think of all the cool things that you could be doing to contribute. I don't know.
I know. Today was one of those days where I spent too much time. I try to just put stuff out, and that's it. Read a little bit, comment a little bit, but mostly put stuff out. And I don't know if that frustrates people because I don't interact a whole lot, but I don't have time. But sometimes I get caught in interacting. And I did that today. There were like 2 or 3 posts where I kept responding and posting these long posts. And luckily they were mostly friendly debates. But
I'm going to have to look for those.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, one of them was in UFO updates. And I think the other one was in our open mind. Well, see. There's lots of debating going on in UFO updates, and not everybody is kind in there. But in a way, I appreciate their spirit. But in
that was politically
the Open Minds
correct.
UFO news group too, there was someone. This one was much friendlier. Luckily, our news group, Facebook group, is much friendlier. Yeah. That's one of the things I always try to do is be diplomatic.
It's hard. I do too, because I think that even if somebody is really, really naughty, there's always I don't know. There's something there,
Yeah, you're right. And it's difficult because it's one of the things that I was mentioning to someone. And there was that. I think that they have something to say, but they come across so aggressive. And they add a lot of, light, but some vitriol in there that just kind of distracts from your core message. If you could stick to your facts and your info, that's what I want to see. I don't want to see you criticizing or you think that because people don't know about these things, about they're idiots. We don't know. Share the information and educate us. People are going to less likely be open to your message if you share something they didn't know and then call them an idiot for not knowing. They're probably not going to look anymore at what you have to say. Whereas if you share the information, they're going to appreciate that and they're going to continue to be open to what you have to say.
And that's a great point. And I've said this on many of my shows. I mean, I am actually shocked at some of the behavior that you see in this field. And it's like, we're struggling just to get out here and volunteer and work our butts off. And nobody knows any of the answers. And I don't think, cutting other people down is necessarily the right approach. But I don't know.
It can make the day harder too. When you get to work, you're excited about something you've done. You're like, oh, I've got some exciting things to do today. And you open up and you see these negative comments. Oh, you idiot. You're such a moron because of this or that. Often it's because they've just read the headline and they didn't read the story where you explain, yourself a little more. But all of a sudden, all of that excitement is just deflated. And then you got to trudge through the day and try to make something of it. That happens more than it should. But I guess, it's just everybody, I think, it's one of the things that when you put yourself out there, when you start to engage in the mass media and it's one of the difficult things when you put yourself out there. And it's, at least for those of us who are out doing podcasts or blogs or any of that sort of thing, I think we need to be sure to have respect for each other because we understand how difficult it is to put ourselves out there every day, which is a reason that, especially those of us who do this sort of thing should be respectful of each other.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm thinking about my particular experience when we were doing the Jaime Maussan thing. And, that was to be thrown into doing that interview was an exciting time for me. But it was really good because I spent, I can't even tell you how many hours, almost every day talking to Jaime and then talking to the Roswell Research Group and doing all of these things. But it really was, it was a learning experience for me.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I had serious issues with their work. However, at least especially with some of them, most of them, they still deserve respect. It doesn't mean, they're evil people who are deserving of all of this hateful talk. For especially, I'll use someone that I know the best out of the group. Well, I know the entire group really well, but especially Don. I know for a fact Don Schmidt came out that whole thing with good intentions, and just because people go down a rabbit hole or chase a wild goose that doesn't pan out doesn't mean they're bad people. And hopefully when you start to promote, and I don't mean you, Erica, but in general, some people out there start to promote something that doesn't pan out, hopefully people aren't going to be mean to you and call you a complete moron because you tried to research something that didn't pan out. We all do that. That's right. That's what this is all about, is looking into it and investigating these things and seeing where it leads. So even, with people who you do have disappointments in their work, I mean, at least I don't think at any point I ever said anything negative about it.
No, because you're a professional.
Research.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think that I was so disheartened to see people that are in positions of power or positions, of authority say some really nasty things. And I just thought, you know what? If you disagree, there's a way to go about it and a way not to. And, when you're representing, a lot of people that you're representing. That was very deep. But you know what I mean? So I think that would we behave that way at work? I don't think we would.
Right.
So
if you would, the communication's not going to work well. I mean, there's going to be some major breakdowns, and everybody brings something to the table, and there may be a point where you'll want to reference that person or ask that person for help, and you've just burned a bridge, and that's not helpful. And we're all working towards the same thing. So, I mean, we mentioned UFO updates, and that's definitely one of those places where it gets the most spiky. And, in a way, I appreciate, like, when I run across something that I really want to vet, even something that I've written that I'm like, okay, I think this is pretty solid. It's like I like to drop it in there because I know people are going to go at it. And they're going to call me a moron if I, at least. But then I can check my work and see, like, okay, is there something wrong with this? And hopefully they won't be too mean about it if there is something wrong with it.
How do you, just learn to bite your tongue and roll with it?
It's difficult. I think what, I taught meditation for many, for years, and I'm not doing it now, although I want to start doing it again. But that taught me how to be calm. But in the business, even in the business world, especially if you get into management, well, one of the things is I was a trainer, a corporate trainer for many years. And so, and especially in the tech industry, mostly in the tech industry. So it was my job to teach the employees a new process. And people don't like change, especially techie people, engineer type people. Mm-hmm. And so it would be my job to represent the company. Even if I disagreed with what the company was doing, I had to, deliver the message and move us towards whatever we were going towards. So it began, and I took an attitude, and luckily it was meditation that helped, honestly, of I'll take on the challenge. I'm going to go walk into that room, and I'm going to stand in front of everybody, tell them what we have to do, get it out at the beginning. Let me have it. Let's talk about what are your problems, what are your issues. Let's hear it, and tackle that. And then move on with the training. And it's something I learned through, psychology and things like this, is that you have to get over those things in order to essentially, it's kind of like hypnosis. Something I've learned is where you're tricking someone into learning despite themselves. And
that's great. So, what a great skill set, though, for you to have.
It's important. Yeah, it's something that is difficult. But if you put yourself out there, I think it's important to be as patient as possible because people are going to be mean.
Lord, well, I tell you, I've developed a thicker skin than usual.
Yeah.
And that's good. And but then it's like you learn your limit and think, okay, this is what I won't accept. This is what I will accept. And then, you move on to the next, and that's the way it rolls. But the whole thing has been such a remarkable learning process. Not only because I'm learning about all this cool stuff, it's about how to interact with people and all of that.
And last resort, don't be afraid to block people on Facebook.
You know what? I've only blocked a couple people. I had a run-in with this fellow that was just a special spirit, and so I had to block him. But I hate blocking people. But anyway, we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. But I'm Erica Lukes. I'm here with Alejandro Rojas. We're going to take a couple-minute break, and we will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this. Where'd that shot come from? Alpha 3 to Eagle 1. We've got company.
From Tay Publishing, codename Eagle Force. The saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TayPublishing.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
Join Joanna L. Ross for an hour of empowerment on Universal Child. Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come learn how to enhance your innate skills and abilities to truly dance with this profound planetary ascension. We are all children of the universe. Universal Child. Universal Child. Universal Child. Universal Child. Opens the doors to those seeking enlightenment entanglement with this magical universe that's showing us in every way that we are energetic beings of limitless light. To assist as we evolve through these new earthly paradigms to cosmic unity, preparations for first landings and galactic unveilings, we are here to inspire and empower your lighted path. Universal Child, hosted by Joanna L. Ross. Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everybody, and happy Friday. It is absolutely gorgeous here in Salt Lake City. Hope you're having a great week. I am having a wonderful conversation, as I knew I would, with UFO paranormal researcher and journalist Alejandro Rojas. In fact, we had, I wish you guys were privy to the conversations we had off air, because it's always really good. Actually, maybe I don't wish you were privy, but we were, we were just talking about the goings-ons in this community, and it is interesting sometimes to weed through the truth, to find the truth, and to do it in a way with that you have integrity. So, I mean, Alejandro, how do you not get discouraged? Really?
Meditation. I don't.
Meditation.
Yeah, meditation. Lots and lots of. It's hard. I mean, I think that a lot of times you just have to, and it's another reason, it's another difficulty with social media, is to try to unplug from that and always keep your eye on the prize. I mean, define yourself and what your mission is and head towards that, and keep working towards that, and try not to get distracted by the rest. And for me, for instance, my focus is not the UFO community at all, surprisingly. I mean, of course, I pay attention to it, but my focus, what I'm writing for the general public, when we put together the UFO Congress, it's for the general public. And so the focus for me is the general public, which first of all, we try to be journalistic and, so it's important for that reason. So every story, we're writing a story for someone who knows nothing about this field, to be sure that, when we bring up a name, that we're clarifying who that person is, or an incident, defining what that incident was and where they can read more. And that's what's important, I think, for me. And so then trying to plug into that mainstream, I have to do that as a blogger with Huffington Post because I can't just go do whatever. I can write about whatever, but I have to be sure that I'm being professional and holding to those journalistic integrity. So it's having that focus on the bigger picture, which I think is really important, because when you do look at that bigger picture, for instance, we send out a biweekly newsletter on an email, and it's fun to put that together because I'll outline what we've done for the last couple of weeks, or even doing a show. When you review the news for the week, there's a lot going on every week, a lot of interesting, important things in this field. Every week. This week we've had some incredible stuff happen. And that stuff is usually outside of and bigger than, the community and the little fighting that goes on there. And that's where my passion is to look at, this mysterious phenomena that we really don't have an answer for, and share the incredible stories out there related to it and the new happenings that are really important to our culture as a whole.
And that's incredible. And that's why I have only been to UFO Congress once, but I will tell you, it is the best conference that I've ever been to. And even if it wasn't a UFO conference, if it was anything else, it was so professional and beautifully run. The vendors were fantastic. The speakers were exceptional. And you're emceeing. You've got some skills, mister.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
and I've got some photos of you, just by the way.
Cool. Yeah, we really try to, as we review the year, look at who's doing something new and interesting. And you can't focus on just the community. If we did, we would be like the other conferences who have the same 12 people every time, every conference. Same 12 people. And there are people who say, well, I wish you had those people again. And I understand, and you can see those people all of the time. You can hear from them all of the time. However, what I like is, what you don't know is that there are another 20 people out there, dozen people out there doing work that is just incredible you've never heard of. And if you humor me here and just come and check out what they have to say, you will be satisfied. And luckily, the conference has a reputation where people know when they come, they are going to see some quality stuff. And luckily, enough people do come and humor us and come and see the speakers. And they're open, their eyes are opened, and they see some new, great stuff. And then usually these are the people that go on to speak at other conferences, and then they get interviews and with podcasts and everything, and then they're able to share their information more than before. And that's what's so fun. It's just highlighting this great work that people are doing. In fact, I like to pride ourselves on, we typically have more MUFON researchers and state directors and stuff like that at our conference than the MUFON Symposium has, because there's a lot of MUFON people out there doing unsung heroes, doing some great work. And so it's so fun to get them in the spotlight and let them share some of their great findings.
Oh, that is so cool, because that's the thing. When I was state director, I was just, every day I would call somebody anywhere involved with MUFON, a field investigator, a state director, and just talked to them and heard their experiences and why they were involved. And I was just in awe of everybody involved because this is their life's work. This is their life's passion, and they want to share. They want to help people. Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation with William Konaleski this week, who is the state director for Michigan, and to listen to him talk about the way he feels about abductions and how to deal with people that have had this experience, it was really, really touching. Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of people that you just think, wow, that's why I'm doing it, so I can talk to people like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, exactly. He's someone I haven't had on my show who I've wanted to, and it's so funny that every few months I'll think, I need to invite him, and then I never do. But, he's a great example of a number of people. And a lot of people will say, I'm mad at MUFON for this or that. But having done years of being PR for MUFON, what they don't understand is it's a huge organization made up of a lot of different people. And it's hard. You can't really – I always tell people when they say, does MUFON believe in this? Does MUFON believe in that? Well, it depends on who you talk to. And there is no MUFON overall, we believe in this and we believe in that. If you go to a meeting, you're going to find some people who all have different points of view, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's great. And we've got a great chapter here in Arizona, and it's a big
Yes, you
group.
do. Oh my gosh, you've got the best, I think, one of the best chapters in the country.
I think so too. I think our director, Stacy Wright and Jim Mann run it, and they do a great job. We have usually 100 people at all our meetings. Tomorrow is the next meeting, and we're having Ruben Uriarte, who's great.
Oh, I'm so stoked. He is a love. He's one of my best friends.
He's a director with MUFON.
He's amazing.
So there's just lots of points of view, and there's just so many people out there working so hard that I really don't like it when – even if I have an issue with what someone else is doing, when people say, oh, I don't like MUFON because of they don't do this or they don't do that. Well, you are just discrediting the work of literally hundreds of people, most of whom don't feel the same way as the person you're criticizing. So it's just there's too many good people. And even the people you're criticizing are working really hard. And their heart's in the right place, even if you disagree with them.
Exactly. And these are people that are volunteering and spending money, taking time away from their family. Mm-hmm. I mean, and putting themselves out there to be ridiculed publicly. I mean, there's a lot that goes into wanting to make this commitment. And I have found some people that I will hold very dear to me for the rest of my life that are in MUFON that I've had a wonderful time. I'm still a field investigator, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. I think, like you were saying, any large organization has its strengths and weaknesses. For me, I would like to see MUFON really dig in and do more with the data that's in the CMS.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I for years I've written stories about the data, and I go in there and I've got this Excel document that I've been updating for years, and I'll go in and manipulate it, sometimes write stories about that. It would be nice if they had someone doing that. But as you know, everything takes so much time and effort that you've got to get someone to volunteer to do that. And every state is like its own organization where they need a lot of volunteers just to run their state. And the national is even bigger. So you have just this small handful of people. Really, we might have more people in Arizona working than they have at national to be able to do everything. So you just don't have enough people out there to do these things.
No, you don't. I mean, then you've got the funding, and it is, like I said, it's a volunteer organization. But I definitely think, when you look at the data that is available in the CMS, there is a gold mine in there, and I think it's just a matter of having people that that can really get in there and do that and then analyze stuff and find the bigger pictures, which I believe there is a picture if we could get in there and really do that.
I agree. There's, like we talked about earlier, there's a lot to be done, and all you have to do is apply yourself. And luckily for both of us, there are a lot of people getting in there and doing the work and applying themselves. And so those are the people, we keep our ear to the ground to, so we can find who these people are and then get them on our shows or at our conference to share what they're finding. So, I just talked to Cheryl Costa like right before I got on the air with you because she's going to be on my next podcast. And she's done some great work looking at some numbers for New Fork. And what was fun about that is I've got MUFON numbers. She's got New Fork numbers. So we were able to talk about the similarities, and it's fascinating. So,
ooh, we might need to have a 3-way conference call.
Yeah.
Because we're doing the same thing, with this project, the Orange that we were doing for MUFON, and then my assistant state director, Jeff Cox, who's helping me here, we're doing a really cool thing with all the orange orb phenomenon, and he's been looking at the New Fork data. So it's cool. We just need to put our minds together and then look at it.
I've got a good orange orb story.
Oh, sweet.
Tell me if you guys have had this on lately. I don't know. Have you had like Robert Hastings on recently?
I would love to get Robert Hastings on. Can you hook that up for me?
Yeah, I can try. I'll give you his contact info. But
we've got it.
Oh, good. Well, then I'm going to steal his thunder a little bit from when he comes on, because this is a really cool story from his new documentary. So he just wrote he wrote a book years ago about UFOs and nukes, because that's what he's been doing. And forgive me if I say nuclear wrong. I said it right that time, I think.
You did. It was good.
I'm so paranoid because my girlfriend makes fun of me because sometimes I say nuclear.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
I think it's kind of cute too.
Yeah,
I think that, but she doesn't. So. But anyways, he's written this book, UFOs and Nukes, Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapons Sites. And he's got all of these military witnesses who have worked at nuclear sites talking about seeing a UFO and sometimes these UFOs having an effect on the nuclear weapons. Well, one of these events is the Rendlesham Forest, because some of your listeners probably are aware of, in 89, when UFOs over several days visited this base in the UK that was on lease to the US. The deputy base commander was skeptical. He went out there. This is Charles Halt, and he brought a bunch of men, and they saw an object floating in the forest. It broke into 5 pieces and flew off. Soon after, this craft in the air came by, beamed light at their feet, and then after that, it flew off towards the weapons storage area, where it beamed a light into the storage area and then flew off. It later turned out, at the time, it was top secret that they actually had nuclear weapons there. According to Hastings' documentary, it was like the biggest depot of nuclear weapons in Europe at the time. So what's cool about this and what's new is that he has just come out with a documentary called UFOs and Nukes. And this one is, what's the title? The Secret Link Revealed. And in this documentary, you see for the first time 2 men who worked at the control tower at that base, at Bentwaters. So what Hastings decided was to find out is, did they catch this thing on radar? He did some research to find out who was working at the tower in the time. He found these 2 gentlemen, and these gentlemen are saying the same exact thing. They're saying, yes, we did catch the object on radar. It was going extremely fast, faster than anything we've ever seen. And it buzzed the tower and hovered near the tower, and we took a look at it, and it was a giant orange ball that had these portholes going around it. And they said it didn't look like lights. It looks like portholes because the light seemed to be coming out of the object. It stopped, and it sat there for a period of time. one of the guys said, I thought someone was flying around a giant basketball or something because it was just this big round thing. And then, boom, it takes off at incredible speed again. So an extraordinary account by these two retired military guys. They're both saying the same thing. They were both in the tower at the time. So all this does is corroborate, of course, the sightings that happened at that time. But just an amazing account. That's one of my favorite orange UFO sightings.
Oh, I love that. And I think maybe tonight's the night I'm just going to sit back and watch that documentary.
Yes, it's so worth it. It's $10 to download it, and then you have it for good. It's on Vimeo. I highly recommend people do that. You can go to openminds.tv, and on our site we have a story. You'll see the story about the radar guys, and we've got a link to it. In fact, we've got it embedded. You could watch it right there. It's $5 to rent it for like 48 hours, but this is probably, I think, I love James Fox and what he does, like Out of the Blue, but now this documentary is probably knocked Out of the Blue off of the number one spot for me.
Really?
And this is the number one because it's just chock full of military witnesses with these extraordinary accounts. And similar events happened in Russia. And we know this from Soviet files that George Knapp retrieved. I don't know if you know much about this, but George Knapp at one time, who's a Las Vegas investigative reporter, the guy who broke the Area 51 story. Yeah, he's great. He went to the Soviet Union and was able to meet with someone who gave him a bunch of Soviet UFO files. And in those files are nuclear events that are pretty extraordinary.
Isn't that fascinating? I spoke to Robert Hastings on the phone once when we had the mass sightings here in Colorado on October 2nd and a couple years ago. And I, had mentioned Dugway to him, Dugway Proving Grounds, to see if he had any insight about that. And he said, it's not a nuclear installation, so he didn't. But I think that would be such a, just selfishly, I would love it if he would look into that because there's so much going on there in regard to UFO stuff, top secret testing, and it really is an interesting place out there.
Mm-hmm. I always think of Dig Dug when I think of Dugway.
Well, that's a new one.
Yeah. Do you remember Dig Dug?
No.
Oh, it was a video game. And we had it on Nintendo where it's this little guy who digs under the ground. He's got this little drill, and he digs under the ground. And there are these bad guys under the ground. And if you open them up because they're in the way, you have to shoot them full of air. He's got this air thing and make them blow up. And then you can move on. And I always think of Dugway and Dig Dug, and I think it would be, if you had Dig Dug's ability to dig into the ground like that, you'd be able to go figure out what's going on.
Ooh, I like it. But, I think I was playing Miss Pac-Man, or I don't know what I was doing back in that day.
Well, check out Dig Dug. Yeah, it's a fun one, and they probably have a version online you can play.
Oh, that's so interesting. So do you have any insider information about Dugway?
None whatsoever, actually. Yeah, I know very little about. Of course, I have an interest, and I've looked at some of what's out there. But, I just haven't found much. And we don't have a great kind of insider giving us some crazy info as of yet, huh?
You know what? I do have somebody here that I've become friends with. His name is Dave Rosenfeld, or Alien Dave. And he's, you'll see him he was on UFO Hunters and different shows. In fact, the History Channel, some producers called all of us up to have us film a new episode on Dugway, a new TV show and things. And so he goes out there and he camps out for days on the periphery, and he knows a lot about that Area 52 Dugway. And it's a really frightening place, in my opinion. I mean, we've got a lot of things. I mean, geez, we had the anthrax, the vials of the live anthrax that was shipped via FedEx all over the country. That was like, what, a year ago? But it's a place that I think just publicly we need to be able to there needs to be a little bit of, we need to pay attention to what goes on. But then I think, too, with the fact that we've got all of this top secret testing going on, that might attract UFO activity.
Is it mostly, if I remember correctly, it's like chemical warfare testing?
Yeah, chemical and biological testing, which they say that they don't do anymore. I don't,
That is scary.
Sure. Oh, it is so scary. I mean, they were doing a chlorine test.
You should be careful because typically in the science fiction, the zombie apocalypses start because of some sort of leak of a secret chemical.
I've never needed an excuse to get out of Utah more than you just gave me one. So I'm gonna.
Well, and Ben Hansen, he does that. He does a conference out there that is around what's it called? I forgot. It's like, just in case a disaster happens, PrepperCon.
Yes, PrepperCon. He was just here a couple weeks ago with PrepperCon.
Yeah, and they do like a zombie apocalypse is kind of part of it to be prepared just in case.
Well, Lord Almighty, I'm going to start my food storage, and we'll just see how that goes. But it is really scary, and I'm amazed how many people in Utah don't even know it's there.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So we're going to find out more stuff about that, and then I'll keep you posted with regards to the UFO stuff. But
for sure.
It's so cool. But I know I've only got you for another half an hour after we get back with the break, and there's so many things I want to talk to you about, Jacques Vallée and the Good Old Boys Club and just where you are now, the scariest thing that you have found out about this. But we're going to talk about that when we come back. I'm Erica Lukes. You can find me on UFO Classified on Facebook and UFOclassified.com. We'll be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everybody. I am happy to be here on Fantopia Friday with lovely ladies of KCOR. Stick around because tonight's going to be a great night. And I'm very excited to hear Tina Marie, who's my really awesome producer. She's going to have some good stuff to say. So stick around, everybody. I am here with Alejandro Rojas, who is a UFO and paranormal researcher, journalist, and he does brilliant work. And I'm not just saying that to butter you up. I'm just saying, Alejandro, you are really a force to be reckoned with.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I always get, it's very humbling to hear those sorts of things because we're all just trying our best out there.
Well, maybe we should rephrase that. Some of us are, no.
Well, just what we're trying at, you know. And it happens. I mean, you know, what you're referring to is some people, and this does happen, even with our conferences, like, you know, you'll get the hint of someone who's marketing themselves. I've got the most important thing. I've got this. I've got that. This is such a big deal. And you ask them, oh, this sounds really interesting. So give me some information, some details. Well, no, it's important. What's important? Oh, I've got all the UFO answers. What are those answers? Well, you know, I just got all the answers. And, you know, you just have those people who are more into self-promotion.
That is an interesting thing. I mean, for me, it's always like, how can we work as a team and get out there and share information? And I've definitely learned that there are other people who don't feel that way. And that's great. You know, they're on my, you know, block on Facebook list.
Well, you know what's cool is that, like, putting together a conference like we do, or any, you know, you've got a good conference when everything's going really well. Everybody, here's, for instance, the first conferences I used to put together were the Colorado UFO briefing. And the very first one I had on the steps in front of the Capitol in Colorado, I did this petition. So we're right in the park and everything. And I did this for a few years. And I would ask people who I felt were very credible, professional. And what I would do is what we would get, I would split that among the speakers, whatever, you know, we got at the door. Most of the speakers would, first of all, take their time and money to get there. And then most of them would say, no, you keep it, you put this on, and not want the money. I mean, the best people out there are the ones who, first of all, typically they're the humble people, they're professional, and they're all about the information, where it doesn't have anything to do with them. It's all about the information. And those are the people who usually have the best information, are the most fascinating to me. And it's kind of funny because then when you bring in kind of the more fringy stuff, the more people where the people have some really kind of, where you're kind of ambivalent, when you have more of those kind of people who are more marketing themselves, they're also kind of more prima donnas, and you have a harder time getting them to do things. They want more money, they want this, and they want that. It's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Can you give us some names?
I'll give you a name of the great ones.
Yeah.
I won't bash any, but like, let's see, some of the first people, Leo Sprinkle, for example. He's someone who, now he's getting too old to travel around. Dr. Leo Sprinkle, one of the very first to investigate alien abduction, which is a fringe, of course, type of thing, but he's always wonderful. A lot of the MUFON people are really good. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss of, especially for people who people would know, but
I mean, like,
Bob Schroeder was a really cool one.
So,
as far as what? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. As far as like the people that you know are taking advantage of people, that you know are just all about the fame junkies, whatever. We can talk about that off air if you want to. It's totally...
and you know, I hate to disparage people.
I know.
And even though there are people that I think people should watch out for, I just don't feel good about publicly talking about the names. Now, sometimes when I'm in the heat of it, you know, people will they don't get out there. But I'll just say this. People who say they have all the answers, that's the biggest thing to look out for. Okay. A lot of people will come onto the stage and say, I don't have all the answers. And those are the people who usually have the most answers. It's kind of like that old saying where and a fool believes he's a wise man, whereas a wise man knows he's a fool, type of thing. Anybody who
perfect.
because if people are genuinely still looking, they're the ones who are digging and digging and digging and getting some really interesting stuff. But those who kick back, and it's that simple. So just think about it. Who are the speakers that say they have all the answers? I'm sure names pop to mind. Those are the people.
Well, perhaps they do. I know it is interesting, and I don't know. I mean, you've been doing this for so long, and you've talked a little bit about, and I heard you talk with Martin about the fact that when you do this for such a long period of time, you're either super jaded or you're taking the crazy train, you know. And where do you feel like you are?
I guess over time, I've sometimes get into the jaded realm, but not too badly. I mean, there are people. It's great to interact with mainstream professionals, people like George Knapp, Lee Spiegel, Leslie Kean. These are some of the people that help keep me grounded, because they have to deal with the mainstream, and their focus is in the mainstream. And in the mainstream arena, it's not as difficult. There's rules, and if you follow those rules, you can gain some progress. And being professional is really important. I mean, that's some of these people that I'm talking about. They understand that. So making sure that you are credible. I mean, a lot of us have gone to school. When you write a paper, you've got to have sources, credible sources for your papers. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So those are the rules I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, it's a high bar that you have to meet. But and it's great to interact with those people, because they're in the same boat, but they're people who have learned to navigate those waters and still are confident that they can work in those arenas. And I think these people prove it every day. Leslie Kean, I think it was such an incredible coup for her to do this interview this last week with a gentleman who has been in the intelligence community his entire career. He's worked with black projects and compartmentalized projects, and she interviewed him at length and posted it on a Huffington Post blog. And it's fascinating. I think we get more insight in that interview that she posted than into how that all really works from the perspective of somebody who's into UFOs. And I think that's just absolutely incredible. And her story got on the front page of the Huffington Post. It's been doing really well.
Oh, that's great.
So it has got a lot of mainstream attention. And it's because she was careful. She's careful how she frames things. She's careful that of the wording that she uses, not overstating things. And so she really is getting the ear of some very important people. That's how you do it. And it's an example of someone who's like, that's inspiring.
That's amazing. And I do admire her a lot. With all of the research that you've done and the people that you've come across, what is the most disturbing aspect of this phenomenon to you? Something that completely surprises you?
I guess what is a bit disheartening for me at times, and it really, I get really confused by it often, and I think about it a lot, is how much people, and especially the mainstream, look down upon people somewhat who are into UFOs, but even more so people who believe in aliens, believe they're either talking to aliens or have been abducted. Now, I don't know if anybody's talking to aliens or really being abducted personally. We don't have proof, but we have a lot of people who believe they are, and I respect those people, and I think it's possible. I don't know. I think, you've got some incredible cases out there. Like I talked to the Congress, and I'm going to do this talk at Roswell about these, alien encounters that are really credible and they're important. The reason this shocks me, though, is I think I'm agnostic when it comes to alien abduction, but I'm also agnostic when it comes to religion. And I just personally don't see a difference. So many people out there have a religion that they adhere to where they believe they're talking to God when they kneel by their bed every night. They believe that, they may have heard from God or an angel or Jesus or Buddha or Allah. The whole idea, this is a supernatural occurrence that they believe that they're having. So, but at the same time, when someone else says they're having a supernatural occurrence, or then it's like, oh, they're crazy, they're ridiculous. And I just don't see the distinction. I think it's just as legitimate for people to believe they're talking to aliens as to believe they're talking to God or an angel or some other divine, supernatural experience. And that's one thing that baffles me and gets me often, because it's like when it comes to, let's say, alien abduction, it bugs me that this isn't taken more seriously. There are thousands of people who believe they're having these experiences. That needs to be taken seriously. I have a degree in psychology. I have a certification in hypnotherapy, which took a lot of further study in psychology. This is a phenomena. It's a psychological phenomena. And when I say that, I'm not saying that precludes or means it's not physical. But even if it is physical, it's a psychological phenomenon, because then there's things like PTSD or other aspects that these people will have to that's why I appreciate some of the therapists who are in this, like Yvonne Smith. She's a PTSD therapist, and she believes that these people are having real experiences and experiencing PTSD, and she's helping them with that. These people, we need to understand these people. Perhaps there's a subset that aren't having real experiences. Perhaps there's a set that is. But we still need to deal with how they're feeling about what's happening, and help them function and help them operate in society. And that means that they have to be listened to, and therapists need to listen to them and take them as serious as they would if they said they had an event with a demon or some other sort of religious sort of thing, which is more acceptable than, an alien one. And to me, I just don't see the difference. And I think that they're all deserving of respect. I have the utmost respect for my friend. I mean, Ben Hansen is a dear friend. He's a Mormon, and he's a devout Mormon. I mean, I've got a lot to live out here in Mesa. My grandmother, for goodness sakes, both of them were very devout Roman Catholics. I have great respect for those who have religion in their life, and I have a great respect for people who also believe that they're dealing with some sort of alien type of issue. I think we all need to respect each other, and it does bother me that that aspect is looked down upon so much.
And that's interesting, because I noticed that when I got involved with this, even the UFO, the diehard quote unquote UFO researchers kind of snub their nose at the abduction phenomena, and I don't understand that.
Well, and from a scientific, and I agree with you. From a scientific point of view, I can understand how, as far as the physical part of it, how they would see that as there isn't proof or evidence that we have necessarily. However, when it comes to the non-physical part, it's still a phenomena. There are thousands and thousands of people that believe this is happening to them. It's an aspect of this phenomena, and it's something you can't deny. It's something that needs to be looked at and figured out, and it's important in that way. In that way, it is scientific, in that it is a psychological issue at the very least. and it's possible there would be some science. I mean, unfortunately, I don't feel there's been enough work done around the implants. The work that has been done, I've had some involvement with, and the credible people who have looked at it have not found the same results as those who aren't credible. And unfortunately, there's some people spouting some work out there that are not credible at all, and they're misrepresenting the alleged science related to some of these. And by that, I want to make sure people understand, I don't mean Roger Lear. I think he did some work that he felt was genuine, but unfortunately, I don't think the people who, were the supposed experts that looked at what he did did a good job, and that still could be done. But unfortunately, those pieces of evidence are being hoarded, and people aren't letting other people look at that. So,
oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, and what are they afraid of? Why aren't they letting people look at this? So, but it's possible that there could be something physical that we would be able to find, and if we are having some sort of visitation going on. And nuts and bolts people believe that as well. A lot of them, that there is visitation happening. Then there could be some other sort of communication happening here that we don't understand, or some other sort of communication we don't understand. So it's certainly not something to just brush under the rug, I don't think. And it's also having a respect for those people in our field that are seeking help. And that's why I think it's great that there are people out there listening to them. And that's why I think it's cool that we have the experiencer groups at the UFO Congress, because talk therapy is actually like the number one therapy for PTSD. And many other things. Talking to other people who are just listening to you is extremely important. Even when it comes to depression, you may be frustrated by what the person who's depressed is telling you, but they always instruct, don't argue with them that they're worthless or that they don't know what they're doing and their life is useless. Of course their life's not useless. Of course they're not worthless. But the logical thing isn't going to work. Just simply listening to people is a tremendous help to these people, and it's important that we do that. And I'm glad that there are people out there to do it.
Absolutely, and that is so beautifully put. So, after all of your research, do you believe there is something credible here for us to look at?
When it comes to the phenomena?
Yes.
Oh, I think definitely there's something to look at. I mean, even in all aspects. The Skinwalker Ranch, which you very well know, has a lot of crazy, interesting stuff going on. But there are so many fascinating cases out there that we just can't answer. The Rendlesham Forest. I spend a lot of time with Travis Walton over the years, living out here in Arizona and with these conferences. A lot of time. In fact, not to blow my own horn or anything, just because I've spent so much time and my girlfriend put on his last conference, I think that we've had the most interaction, and we've had the witnesses at our conference and at his, we've had the most interaction with the other witnesses than anyone else. And in fact, Karen, my girlfriend, was able to find the police officer who first talked to the group when they came back and called the cops. And Travis and the group, they didn't know what this guy was going to say, but they were more than open to him coming to this conference and talking to them about it. And he was really into it. He believed them. They didn't even know he was going to say that because they haven't seen him for many years. And he said, I believe them. And he was fascinating. So I know the dynamics. And these guys, all these witnesses, they're not friends. They're not people who I believe could have coordinated anything. And if one of them was lying, the others would be sure enough over the years, out of all the infighting that's happened, call him out and say, hey, that guy's a liar. No, these people are dealing with some kind of experience that they had. There are so many genuine mysteries involved with this that I certainly believe that's what's that's what drives me. That's what's exciting is we don't have answers. And those mainstream scientists that say they have answers, for instance, Nadia Drake, Frank Drake's daughter, wrote a story this week talking about how silly it is that Clinton's taking UFOs seriously. She doesn't have answers to all of these cases. And what's cool is she has been responding to comments people are making to her stories. And people are saying, have you heard about this? Have you heard about Gordon Cooper? Blah, blah, blah. And she hasn't. So she hasn't done the research into these really credible cases. Yet she's kind of saying that they're not worth looking into. And that happens a lot. So nobody has answers for a lot of these mysteries. And that's what's fun.
I know, and I agree with you. You've got some speaking engagements coming up. Tell us where you're going to be next so we can find you.
I do. I have so many talks that I do that I've started to do them at the UFO Congress. So I'll be speaking at the Congress again. And then I'm going to be at Roswell on the first weekend of July. And I'll be speaking for the Roswell Daily Record, maybe the museum. I haven't heard back from them yet. Hopefully Don's not mad at me. But and then I'm also going to be speaking at MUFON. And this is a fun talk I'm excited about. It's talking about official government UFO organizations, because there are many countries have government UFO organizations. And they started these organizations from amazing cases that have yet to be solved.
They did. It's so cool, and I wish I could be there, but I might be over looking at some crop circles.
Ooh, fun.
I know, but Alejandro, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And I look forward to having you back sometime soon. I'm Erica Lukes, and we're going to be on the other side with Bruce Champagne talking cryptozoology stuff. So have a good break, and we'll catch you on the other side.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
3 guys, no ties.
All across the country, I'm going to tell you what I really think of Donald Trump. This man is a pathological liar. He doesn't know the difference between truth and lies.
After Cruz had quit the campaign, he and Trump have teamed up. What?
We are talking to Ted Cruz, who's a friend of mine and a good guy.
3 guys, no ties, Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Join Joanna L. Ross for an hour of empowerment on Universal Child, Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come learn how to enhance your innate skills and abilities to truly dance with this profound planetary ascension. We are all children of the universe. Universal Child. Opens the doors to those seeking enlightenment, entanglement with this magical universe that's showing us in every way that we are energetic beings of limitless light. To assist as we evolve through these new earthly paradigms to cosmic unity, preparations for first landings and galactic unveilings, we are here to inspire and empower your lighted path. Universal Child, hosted by Joanna L. Ross. Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. For Hyperspace. The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
This is the world famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone, for the final segment of UFO Classified tonight. I'm happy that you're all here, and I have to just say thank you, all of my friends all over the world, for sending me your messages, telling me about your orange orb stories, and connecting with me. I think it is incredibly important that we have a network, a worldwide network, where we're sharing experiences, documenting things. It is just fantastic. Next week, I'll be here with MUFON's Pennsylvania State Director, John Venturi, who will be talking about the paranormal, UFOs, all sorts of cool things. But now for the final segment, I have somebody that is quite special to us here in Utah, and we're learning more about him all the time. Bruce Champagne has always been curious about UFOs, cryptozoology. He has investigated and experienced the Sasquatch phenomena in California. He obtained his undergraduate degree in marine biology and has conducted diligent research into marine sea serpents, disseminating an analysis of the Clark San Francisco sea serpent, which I'd heard nothing about until I talked to Bruce. This is very, very cool. He has a new research project, an examination of lake monsters with a correlation to marine sea serpents, and that is scheduled to be published in the 4th edition of the peer-reviewed Journal of Cryptozoology. Champagne is a member of the original International Society of Cryptozoology and has authored cryptozoology-related magazine articles and has appeared in television programs. So, Bruce, thank you so much. You are a love for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, absolutely. And you have such a diverse background in your investigative skills, obviously being a detective and doing all of this, that really sets you apart from most other researchers. How did you get involved in this?
Well, probably when I was in my early teens, I would go to the library during the summer and started to pick up some books on cryptozoology and things like that, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then I began to collect newspaper articles and things like that of sightings, mostly of Sasquatch in California at the time. And then as I got older and a little more mobile and able to get around and visit, I started doing a little research on my own.
That is so fabulous. I mean, I think for me, researching the paranormal, UFOs, there's all of these things. I'm always amazed at how these things intermingle, especially, you look at Skinwalker Ranch in the Uinta Basin and you have Bigfoot sightings, strange creatures, UFOs. So have you found that you think it's related?
I don't know that I have any personal evidence that it is related, but I think it would be safe to assume that if some extraterrestrials had an interest in the human species, they would probably also have an interest in any other prominent species that were on the Earth too.
And that's so interesting. I know it's the problem. We just don't know any of this, but you've really been good at grabbing a hold of some of the research with regards to sea serpents. And tell us a little bit about what you have discovered.
Well, I kind of began my research as kind of an extension of a work by Bernard Heuvelmans, and he was a Belgian zoologist, and he wrote a book called In the Wake of Sea Serpents in 1968. And really nothing had been updated since that time, and so I wanted to kind of extend the data set because these sightings are pretty rare. And in my work in marine biology, I kind of experienced the same thing when I would observe marine events, that you had very little time to observe and document what you saw with any kind of accuracy. So my objective was to advance the data set, to propose a set of serpent types based on all the observations and reports that were available, and then propose a method for quality control, because I did see that that was kind of a problem too, and that a great deal of things were accepted without any skepticism, or some of them were discounted maybe inappropriately also. And so I developed a quality control system that I analyzed a little over 1,200 different observations, and then developed my serpent types from there with the hope that I could propose a falsifiable natural history for all of them. And so anytime one of these rare observations would occur, perhaps you could compare it to the proposed type and either revise or modify what I proposed, or even corroborate it. And then what I found is there was one animal that seemed to pop up more than any, and perhaps most areas around the world. And in fact, I believe there was a photograph taken of one. It's called the Naden Harbor carcass. And then what I found is it actually kind of corresponds to many of, what pop culture calls lake monsters. And so that's the new paper that's coming out, last I heard this summer, is when that journal will be published, where I kind of propose a correlation between the marine serpent types and the lake monsters.
Now, there are some lake monsters pretty close to us, from what I understand. So talk about, we've got Utah Lake. Correct.
I actually live on Utah Lake, so I have eyes on it a good deal of the time. Utah Lake gets, now, it's very, very warm. It has very poor water clarity. Back originally, before the whole area was settled, it was a very pristine lake. I believe it may be one of the third largest freshwater lake in North America. But it's very shallow now. Siltation problems. I think the deepest it is 11 feet. But there was originally, when the area was settled, there was kind of a legend that there was a Utah Lake monster. And it very well could have existed then. It's pretty unlikely now that it could, with the condition of the lake. There's also a little more famous as the Bear Lake monster that's up towards the northern part of the state. Both the lakes freeze over, so that has to be taken into consideration. Bear Lake is in a lot better condition than Utah Lake is, but what I thought was interesting is there's marsh areas on the north end. And what I propose in both of my papers for this one particular type of animal, I call it a type 3 multiple humped animal, is that it's actually able to negotiate really shallow water. It might inhabit marshes and really only becomes active and moves around during periods of high water. And I think it could be the source of the water horse and the kelpie, and there's a few other different types of similar animals in South America and North America. So though I'm not sure that the Bear Lake monster exists now, perhaps originally it could have.
Well, and there was, when we talked last, there was some interesting, you had talked about some historical aspects of that and with regards to the Mormons that came in.
Correct. That's where some of these earlier reports originated. You have to kind of look into them a little more deeply as far as how accurately they are, or if they're kind of just kind of legend that gets passed along. But those reports extend from during those periods in the late 1800s when the territory was being settled. Periodically, you do hear occasional reports from Bear Lake. There was one that I saw on the internet earlier this year, which is kind of a hoax, and perhaps the businesses and tourists kind of foster it still being there, but you don't really hear them too much coming out of Utah Lake anymore either, but occasionally you do out of Bear Lake.
Oh, interesting. And then there's the Tahoe Tessie.
Correct.
And we go there every year, and I keep waiting, and of course I don't really get in and swim for a long period of time, but there's an interesting, the whole area is just full of interesting legends and lore. What do you know about Tahoe Tessie?
It's one of the lake monsters that there's not a whole lot of sightings to back it up. And you do have to take into account misidentifications, boat wakes, and different other water movements and things like that could be mistaken for it. Like I said, it's not reported as often as some of the other ones. So, that one, if it did exist, perhaps it doesn't now, or it's in numbers that don't lead itself to being observed very often on the surface.
Okay, good. So I can feel safe about water skiing.
Yeah, it's a little cold, but you can probably water ski.
So I had told you that we were planning a trip over to Scotland, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make it there. I'm crossing my fingers because I would love to go to Loch Ness. And you were mentioning some interesting things about that whole area with regards to sea serpents.
Sorry, you were breaking up there a little at the beginning.
So I was telling you that we were going to we have a trip abroad, and we're going over to England and Scotland.
Ah, yeah.
And we know that there is some good stuff going on over there with regards to all of this. Tell me where to go and what I should look for when I'm over there.
Well, a lot of the legends that I thought were pretty interesting were in Scotland and Ireland. There's reports that go back some time that they describe a long kind of snake-like or caterpillar animal that would get stuck in culverts and canals. Occasionally, it would be stuck there until it rained and the high water came through, or sometimes it died and would decompose there. And I think maybe these might be the source of water horses and kelpies. The Lochs and Lows over there have an animal that's similar to my type 3 animal also. And so I think that might be kind of a source to it. And what I'll propose in my article coming out later this year is there's actually 3 freshwater variants of this animal, and they have different sizes, and though they might look similar, their behaviors and ability to negotiate different bodies of water or streams or rivers allow them to, between the two, exploit food resources and mating opportunities and avoid areas that aren't really conducive to them being there all year.
How interesting. I'm so excited to hear you talk. You're going to be speaking tomorrow here for our group in Utah, and this will be really, really fascinating. But I want to just ask you what you had a personal Sasquatch sighting. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I was just graduating high school, and a couple of friends and I were going to take one last fishing trip in a kind of a mountain area, the Sierras in California, Central California. And we slept in it at night, and I remember in the morning when we were because we got there, it was already dark. When we were getting ready to get up in the morning, it kind of rained lightly. You could hear it on the tent. And so all of us got up to go fishing. Well, went upstream, and me and another friend went downstream. And I was walking along the stream looking for a place to get through the bushes and fish in the stream, and it wasn't a very large stream. And I looked down in the sand on the bank, and there was a bare footprint that was larger than my foot in a boot. And I could tell by the sand, because it showed the little marks from the rain hitting it, that the footprint was applied since the time it rained. And on my side of the stream, my friend saw me look down and look at it, and I looked at him, and neither of us said anything. And we decided to leave right then, and we had just started. And so walked back and met my other friend. I think he recognized we were uncomfortable, and we didn't talk too much about it. But it was the oddest feeling I've ever had with my profession and some of the things I've done in my research. I've had opportunity to feel adrenaline regularly, and and I'm not really given to that too much, overreactions. But I really have never been that scared in my life.
Wow.
The feeling that I had. So I don't know if, I've often wondered if they emit a smell or something that is maybe faint that, other species pick up on, and that's what causes those feelings of alarm. But it was, and I've never felt anything like that since. Never been scared to that extent since. And so I looked across the stream before we took off, and it was kind of a red clay cliff, if I remember right, and it almost looks like it sidestepped there, and I don't know whether it walked across the stream that was kind of pooled up or jumped, because I only found that single footprint. And and in hindsight, it's too bad I didn't cast the print or was prepared to do that. Since that time, I've had a couple of opportunities and found some prints, but nothing that was as good as that one.
Oh, what an interesting experience. And coming from you, with your career in law enforcement, for you to have that feeling of alarm, that says something. We know that we've got strange stuff going on in Utah, and we had mentioned that we had talked about kind of some of the Utah Sasquatch sightings. Where could we go and investigate this in Utah?
When I first got to Utah, I connected with some of the guys here in the state that were pretty active investigating it. And so, we were out in the Uinta Basin at one time. Before I connected with them, I did a lot of research, and I went up to the North Ogden area, which at one time was very, very active. The Uintas, of course, are very active. Routinely, sightings are coming out of there. You'll still see videos coming out of Provo Canyon and American Fort Canyon, so the Timpanogos Range. And then out in Eagle Mountain in the north part of Utah County, I had heard rumors that a woman had one come up and approach her horses and drink out of her water trough. And so I contacted one of the people that would know, who kind of tracked all of these things, and they were real interested in what I had found out, but they weren't going to give me any information on it. And so when I scouted it, I think I found the location where it happened, because that's high desert there, and so it would be very challenging for a large animal like that to approach the outskirts of a housing development without being seen. And what I found is there's actually a ravine going right up to the back of her house, and that ravine is at some points 20 feet deep and 30 feet wide. And so I think if the animal is there, it can move through that ravine. It's very long, it's miles long, and it extends from the closest mountain range down there. Maybe that's how the animal's finding water and other food sources. And that was probably 5 to 8 years ago. And then you do hear about them periodically in that mountain range that's close by there also.
And that's interesting, because that's, we'll get reports of UFO activity in the same areas.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wonder, did it be really interesting? We just need to go out camping, I think.
Sure.
Is what we all need to do, and do a little investigating, because I'm always shocked at how you've got all of this stuff, in my opinion, just kind of intermingles, and I don't know where one phenomena, starts and the other one leaves. It's just a very interesting thing to me. So your passion is sea serpents. What do you think about the UFO stuff?
Well, I've always been curious about that too. I know I talked to you. I think that I may have seen some in a canyon in Central California, and I was with, I don't know, maybe a dozen other Boy Scouts, and there were people all throughout that campsite in this canyon, and we watched multiple objects change colors and exchange positions. And though I don't know that I could estimate distance with any accuracy, they were probably a mile or two away from us, and we watched them for half hour, 45 minutes, and we were younger, and it didn't take that much time for us to get bored, and we actually stopped watching them before they left the area.
Well, imagine that. But what a cool experience. And I just have to say I am looking forward to having you come tomorrow and speak to all of us in Utah, because there's so much going on here in this state, and we can learn so much from you. And I thank you very, very much for being here and telling us this, and coming in last minute, because, Alejandro Rojas, who was here, he had a date. And so I'm thinking, okay, who can I find that would be super cool to expose my listeners to? And that would be you. And I would really love to hook you up with my friend Nick Redfern. I think Ryan Sprague has a great show called Into the Fray, where he talks about all of this. So we'll get it going on and get you out there and have you just speak about this, because it's fascinating.
Oh, anytime. I love to talk about it. So anytime I can help, and I was glad I was able to support and encourage romance this evening.
Oh, and it wasn't that nice. Well, it is Friday night. Even though I'm sure Alejandro might think it wasn't quite that romantic. I think he's with his girlfriend's daughter at a robotics conference or something.
Oh,
but this was so much fun. So thank you so much. And as always, I want to thank all of my friends out there for listening. It is so cool for me to know that you're out there all over the world. You're sending me messages. You're becoming involved in this. And I hope every week I can bring you relevant guests with great information, and perhaps that can expand your mind, teach you how to become better researchers, and all of that good stuff. If you have guest suggestions for me, please message me on UFO Classified on Facebook. You can find all sorts of stuff about orange orbs on UFOclassified.com. So make sure you find that next week. Pennsylvania MUFON State Director John Venture will be here. And tonight, of course, is Ladies' Night. So grab your margaritas and get ready for a brand new show here on KCOR. Joanna Ross is coming up next on her show, Universal Child, Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, and then Solaris Blue Raven with Hyperspace. You are going to have a great night. Ladies' Night is rocking it out here. So have a safe and fabulous weekend. I'm Erica Lukes, and I will see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the